The best way to follow a Games Workshop tutorial is not to follow it at all. Games Workshop is one of the largest, if not the largest, miniature painting companies around the world. And over the years, they produced thousands of miniature painting tutorials for us on YouTube. And though they create one of the best looking miniatures in my opinion, I believe that their signature painting style could be done more efficiently, a way that's more cost effective and faster for the average miniature painter. My name is Louis of Louis Loves Minis, and do subscribe to my channel if you want to make your hobby life a little bit more better. If you go to Games Workshop's YouTube channel and their current painting website, you'll see a lot of different styles of how they paint miniatures currently. They have different techniques, they have special paint schemes, and they have even different products and paint lines in how to paint different types of miniatures. But for this video, I'll be specifically looking at how they basically make your parade ready miniature. So that entails the basing, shading, layering, and highlighting process that they normally make us go through. Before we continue with the first tip, I just want to say that I love Duncan Rhodes. He's been one of the biggest influences of my miniature painting life, and I'm sure yours. And I do paint two thin coats most of the time. And that's my first tip. You don't always have to follow Duncan, and you don't always have to paint two thin coats. So when should I apply two thin coats, and when should I not? Most of the time, you should always apply two thin coats. Two thin coats is the best way to make sure that your miniature's brush marks are not visible, so that your paint job always looks realistic and that people will see, oh, this was painted on. But if you're looking at a part that has a lot of gradient, or that you know will have a lot of tonal changes such as skin and cloth, I don't always apply two thin coats on my base coat step, because I know for a fact that when I get to my wash step, when I get to my layer step, and when I get to my highlight step, I'll be covering most of the initial base coat that I've done. And in my opinion, when you're painting something that's rough like a log or textile, you're always gonna have to dry brush over it, or you're always probably gonna have to layer on top of it after a wash. So that means you're doing two base coats, a wash, a layer, and a highlight. So that's actually 5 layers of paint. But you can instead make it 4 by removing the second thin coat of base coat, because you're eventually just layering it up either way. So in that sense, it's saving you an extra step in the base coat process when you're painting something not as smooth or not as uniform. Now let's move on to washes. There are 2 ways that Games Workshop normally tells us how to wash our model. They tell us to basically bathe the whole model or all the parts in a specific wash, and then they ask us to layer up and cover the areas that we didn't like the wash to happen or get on. The second way they teach us how to wash predominantly is a pin wash, whereas I only apply the wash in the recess areas and I don't touch the raised areas. That's a great differentiation to always keep in mind. Most of the time, I prefer a pin wash or just a recess shade wash where I only touch the deep areas or the areas that I want shaded with the wash. That saves me the step of cleaning up, as opposed to washing the whole miniature and then going back to all my original base coats and relayering the parts that I didn't want shaded. So you may think that covering multiple parts in a wash sounds faster, but in my experience, what makes that step longer is the cleanup process afterwards. So what if you could wash a miniature and reduce the cleanup process, making the whole washing stage a lot shorter? And that's mostly done by favoring pin washing, or just placing the wash in the areas you want shaded. Of course, I don't normally do this when it's an irregular shape such as skin and cloth and textures, because I want the wash to actually help translate that texture. Tip number 3, still in the base stage, organize your base colors according to your wash. One of my first few experiences when watching a Games Workshop tutorial is that I would see sometimes Duncan or another Games Workshop employee like Peachy, he would paint specific parts of a model, then wash it black, then paint other parts of the model, then wash it with a flesh shade, and then go back to a different part of a model and then wash it again with black. And I was thinking, why not just do all the base colors that you want done in black and then shade everything in black? And then do all the base colors with the Reichland flesh shade or other types of colors of shade and then shade it. So that's what I mean by organizing your colors per wash, because you're actually saving more steps instead of going back and forth with base color, null wash, base color, null wash again, base color, agrax, and base color, null. Just do all the base colors that need the black wash and hit that thing. Then you're done with all the black wash base colors. Then do all the base colors with agrax or shade. Then wash that with agrax or shade. So if you notice, we're still following Games Workshop's main structure and methodology of painting, which is base, wash, layer, and highlight. It's just that we're minimizing the steps by either taking them out completely or grouping them together to make batch painting a lot more efficient. And we actually save time and paint in the process. You're probably gonna make a lot of mistakes like me, and if not, you're very lucky. But every time you make a mistake and you panic to go back to reach for the base coat you covered with that mistake, you're adding another step in that batch painting process. So better just keep going through all your batch painting processes or all the steps of painting a miniature and only correct all your mistakes in one step at the tail end of your project. So in that sense, you actually complete the miniature and you're just saving a final step, which is the cleanup step. Instead of base coating something, making a mistake, cleaning it, and then washing something, making a mistake, cleaning it, and then layering something, making a mistake, cleaning it. So instead, do all your base coats, do all your washes, do all your base coats, do all your washes, clean up, then do the layers, then do the highlights. So I normally put my cleanups in between the washes or before I do a wash, because it's a lot harder actually to clean up an area that's already been covered with a wash, because that means if there's a base coat with a wash, then I put some paint above it, I'm gonna have to apply the original base coat again and then the wash. So it makes it a bit more difficult to clean up. Let's move on to the highlighting stage. And in the highlighting stage, you see a lot of the videos of Games Workshop and they're really great at edge highlighting. I will make a video specifically for edge highlighting, but at least the tip that I can share for this end and what I personally do is, if your brush can't reach the area, that's my way of telling myself, I guess the light can't reach that area and there's no need to edge highlight it or no need to highlight that layer. So it's also the same thing as if my eyes can't see it from afar, there's no need to paint it type of thing, like at the back of the gun or inside the chest where the guns are covering it, that type of methodology. And that just saves you more time and reduces the coverage of areas that you need to layer and highlight, making the steps shorter, giving you more time to do more minis or move on to the next step. Lastly, my favorite tip is just to paint all the details. And when I mean paint all the details, if you have a figure that has 5 different buttons here and you color it in 5 different colors, even without a wash, your miniature already looks more detailed than to another miniature the same type that's just applied with one base coat and a wash. So if you have miniatures that have different layers of cloth, try adding different hues of browns or different hues of colors of cloth in the layers, and it will just make your miniature look a bit more detailed than the next one, even before the base coat or even before the wash, so to speak. That's it for today's hobby motivation and productivity video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am an incredibly big Games Workshop fanboy, and in no means did I want to say that their tutorials suck. In fact, I've been following their tutorials for so long in the hobby that I've gained these tips in becoming more efficient and proficient and being loyal to the base coat wash highlight technique, and I just wanted to make a video to share it to you guys. So please do subscribe, comment below if you think this video helped you out and that you think that it's gonna make you paint more Games Workshop miniatures faster and better. And as always, don't forget to hobby every day to keep the sprues away.